The glucose monitor beeped again. Baxter's hands were shaking too hard to hold his pencil, and I could see the sweat beading on his forehead even from 2 seats away. His face had gone that pale, waxy color I'd learned to recognize over 3 years of friendship. 3 years of watching him check his blood sugar before every meal. 3 years of knowing exactly what those numbers meant. Mrs. Squelch didn't look up from her lab worksheet. She was grading papers at her desk, completely oblivious to the fact that one of her students was slowly losing consciousness. "Mrs. Squelch," I said, raising my hand. "Baxter needs to go to the nurse. Now." "No one leaves during lab time," she said without even glancing our way. "You can wait 20 minutes like everyone else." The monitor beeped. 48. Baxter's hand dropped his pencil. It rolled across his desk and clattered to the floor. He didn't pick it up. He couldn't. His fingers were shaking too badly to grip anything. "Mrs. Squelch," I said again, my voice rising. "He's diabetic. His blood sugar is dropping. He needs sugar right now." I knew the numbers by heart. Baxter had drilled them into me the first time we'd become friends in freshman year. "If I ever hit 40, he'd said, showing me his monitor, "don't ask permission. Don't wait for a teacher. Don't do anything except get me sugar. At 40, I can have a seizure. At 30, I can die." His monitor beeped again. 45. I said no, Mrs. Squelch snapped. "One more word and you're both getting detention." I looked at Baxter. His eyes were starting to glaze over. That was the worst part, watching his eyes go distant and unfocused, knowing his brain was starving for glucose, knowing every second mattered. So I ran. Part 2. The rules we lived under. Let me back up and explain how we got here. Because the thing about that Wednesday wasn't just one bad moment. It was years of terrible policies finally coming to a head. My school didn't let us bring our own lunch. Didn't matter if you were diabetic or had severe allergies or just wanted to eat something that wasn't gray and rubbery. Every morning, teachers would pat us down at the door and comb through our backpacks. Any outside food they found would be thrown away. I'd seen kids cry over their lunch getting tossed. I'd seen a girl with a peanut allergy almost have a panic attack when they took her safe food and told her to just eat the cafeteria option. "We have a zero-tolerance policy," the principal always said. "Bringing outside food creates distractions and safety concerns." Distractions. That's what he called hungry kids. And the cafeteria only served lunch once per day, at 10:30 in the morning, meaning if you missed it or couldn't eat at 10:30 for some reason, you were out of luck for the rest of the day. By 7th period, half the school was starving. By 8th period, kids were falling asleep in class, their bodies running on fumes. The vending machines, those beautiful machines full of granola bars and pretzels and juice, used to be our lifeline. For a brief, glorious period, you could buy something to get you through the afternoon. But then the principal said too many students were distracted by them, so he shut them off at noon, sharp. Every day. Never occurred to him that we were distracted because we were hungry. Never occurred to him to fix the actual problem. And the nurse? She left at 2 p.m. sharp every day. Not 2:05, not 2:10. 2 p.m. on the dot, she was out the door, heading to her second job at a clinic across town. If you had a medical issue after 2, you were on your own. Nobody talked about it because nobody wanted to rock the boat. We were just kids. What were we supposed to do? But Baxter had a condition that couldn't wait. Part 3. Gary. That's where Gary came in. Gary was our maintenance guy. He'd been at the school for 15 years, mopping floors and fixing leaky sinks and emptying trash cans. Nobody paid much attention to him. He was just part of the background, like the flickering fluorescent lights or the smell of floor wax. Then one Friday, Baxter started getting shaky during 7th period. I knew the sign, the sweating, the pale skin, the trembling hand. But the nurse was already gone and the vending machines were off and Baxter had forgotten his emergency glucose tablets in his gym lock, which was all the way across the building. Gary was mopping the hallway outside our classroom when Baxter stumbled out to use the bathroom, or at least that was the excuse I'd made up for him. "Hey, you okay, kid?" Gary asked. "You look pale." Baxter shook his head. "Just need sugar. I'm diabetic. My blood sugar's dropping." Gary's face changed. He put down his mop and looked Baxter right in the eye. "Type 1? Baxter nodded. "Stay here," Gary said. "Don't move." He walked down the hall to the vending machine. I watched through the classroom window as he pulled out a key and unlocked the panel on the side. He reached in, did something, and the machines hummed to life. He bought a juice and a granola bar and handed them to Baxter. "Eat, right now. Don't wait." Baxter drank the juice so fast I thought he might choke. His color started coming back. His hands stopped trembling. "Thank you." Baxter whispered. "How did you know how to—" "My daughter's type 1, Gary said quietly. "She was diagnosed when she was 8. I know what this looks like." From that day on, Baxter had an ally. Every Friday, Gary would forget to unplug the vending machine. We developed a system where someone would watch for administrators while others bought food. Word spread carefully among trusted kids. We didn't tell everyone, just the ones we knew wouldn't mess it up. Baxter could finally get juice when he needed it instead of rationing the nurse's limited supply. We thought we had it figured out. Baxter even stopped carrying his emergency glucose tablets as much because he knew Fridays were safe. The principal never checked on Fridays anyway, since he always left early for district meeting. For 2 months, this system worked perfectly. Then the Wednesday happened. Part 4, the worst day it. Started with an announcement at 9:30 a.m. The principal came over the intercom with his usual smug voice. Attention students. The cafeteria and vending machines are shut off immediately for an emergency health inspection. No food service today. We apologize for the inconvenience. No explanation. Nothing. Just hundreds of kids who'd eaten nothing that morning now expected to wait until dismissal. I looked at Baxter. He looked back at me. The same thought crossed both our minds. Where are we going to get food? By 2 p.m. in biology, Baxter was sweating again. His hands were shaking as he tried to take notes, the pencil jerking across the paper in unsteady lines. His face had that waxy look I knew too well. You good? I whispered. I'm at 62 and dropping, he said, showing me his glucose monitor. I need sugar now. The nurse was already gone. The vending machines were definitely unplugged since it was Wednesday. His emergency tablets were in his gym locker across the building because he'd gotten complacent with Gary's Friday help. Mrs. Squelch was at her desk, grading papers, completely oblivious. I raised my hand. Mrs. Squelch, Baxter needs to go to the nurse. His blood sugar is dropping. She didn't even look up. No one leaves during lab time. He can wait 20 minutes. Baxter's monitor beeped. 54. Mrs. Squelch, he's diabetic. He needs sugar right now. His blood sugar is at 54. That's really dangerous. I said no, she snapped. And if you keep talking, I'm giving you both detention. Baxter's monitor beeped again. 48. His hands were shaking too hard to hold his pencil. He dropped it on the floor. Mrs. Squelch, I said, my voice rising. At 40, he could have a seizure. At 30, he could die. You have to let him go. No one leaves during lab time. That's the rule. I looked at Baxter. His eyes were starting to glaze over. He was slipping away, right in front of me, and the teacher didn't care. I didn't think. I just ran. Part 5. The vending machine misses. Squelch yelled after me, but I was already in the hall. My footsteps echoed off the lockers as I sprinted toward the vending machines. The hallway was empty. Everyone was in class. The only sound was my breathing and the pounding of my heart. The vending machines were dark when I reached them, unplugged, dead. The principal's distraction policy at work. I stood there for a second, staring at the dark screens. It felt like the world was ending. Baxter was back in biology, slowly slipping into unconsciousness, and I was standing in front of a machine I couldn't use. Then I looked to my right. A classroom door was open. Inside, I saw a desk chair. I didn't think about the consequences. I didn't think about suspension or expulsion or anything else. I just grabbed the chair and swung it into the glass. The crash was tremendous. Glass exploded everywhere, thousands of tiny shards catching the fluorescent light. I heard an alarm start to blare somewhere in the distance. My hands were bleeding. I'd cut them on the broken glass without even noticing, but I didn't care. I grabbed Skittles and a regular Coke. Sugar, fast sugar, exactly what Baxter needed. Then I ran back to biology. Part 6, Saving Baxter. The assistant principal was already running toward the noise when I burst back into the classroom, but I didn't care. I shoved past Mrs. Squelch's desk. She was standing now, her mouth open in shock, and got to Baxter. He was slumped over his desk. His monitor read 41. Baxter. Baxter, come on. Wake up! I ripped open the Skittles and forced them into his mouth. His jaw moved weakly. He chewed a few times. I poured some of the Coke into his mouth. He swallowed. I gave him more Skittles. More Coke. Come on, man. Eat, please eat. Stay with me. He managed a few more bites. His eyes started to focus. The color began to come back to his face. Baxter looked at me, then at the Skittles, then at my bleeding hands. Did you? Yeah, I broke the machine. Don't talk. Just eat. The assistant principal stormed in with the school resource officer. Mrs. Squelch was yelling something about destruction of property. The SRO was asking me questions, but I didn't hear any of it. I was watching Baxter's monitor. 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, and boom, 95. Baxter whispered, I'm okay. I'm okay. I sat back in my chair. My hands were bleeding. My heart was pounding. But Baxter was okay. That's all that mattered. Part 7. The aftermath. The principal was called back from his Wednesday golf game. I could tell he was furious the moment he walked in. His face was red, his suit was rumpled, and he was practically vibrating with anger. Destruction of school property, he said, pacing in front of me. Assault on school personnel. Defiance of authority. That's suspension. Possible expulsion. And I'm considering pressing charge. Baxter's mom arrived about 20 minutes later. She was a pediatric endocrinologist, and she was terrified. She walked into the principal's office like she owned it, her heels clicking on the tile, her eyes scanning the room like she was looking for someone to destroy. Let me understand this, she said, deadly calm. You banned all outside food. You serve lunch at 10:30 1:30 a.m. You lock vending machines at noon. The nurse leaves at 2. And you think this is safe for diabetic students? The principal stuttered about policies and procedure. My son's blood sugar was 41, she continued. At that level, he could have had a seizure. He could have gone into a coma. He could have died. Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but there are rules. What's your name? She interrupted. The principal blinked. Ryan Lutz. Ryan Lutz, she repeated. I'm going to remember that name. I'm going to remember it when I file a complaint with the State Board of Education. I'm going to remember it when I call the ADA. I'm going to remember it when I sue this school district for endangering my son. The principal's face went pale. My parents were called next. They showed up looking confused and worried. When they heard what happened, they didn't yell at me. Instead, my dad just put his hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, he said quietly. I'm proud of you. My mom was crying. Your hands, she said. Your poor hands. The cuts weren't that bad, but I let her clean them and bandage them anyway. The principal kept insisting I'd face consequences for vandalism. Baxter's mom laughed. Sue him, she said. I dare you. See how that plays in the news. The next morning, I was in-school suspension. I sat in a room with 3 other kids who'd gotten caught skipping class. The ISS supervisor, Mr. Daniel, was reading a newspaper. My phone buzzed. A text from Baxter Cafeteria. Closed again. Health department here. My mom's now coming with lawyers and wants you here. Please come. I stared at the phone, reading the text again. Baxter's mom with lawyers meant this was serious. Real serious. I raised my hand. Can I use the bathroom? Mr. Daniels barely looked up. 5 minutes. I walked out calmly, then broke into a run once I turned the corner. Part 8. The cafeteria was chaos when I arrived. Health inspectors in white coats were everywhere, taking pictures of everything. Baxter stood with his mom near the serving line. 3 people in suits with yellow legal pads wrote note. Baxter's mom saw me and waved me over. This is him, she told the lawyer. The hero who saved my son. Hero. I didn't feel like one. I just felt scared for my friend. One of the lawyers, a woman with sharp eyes and a tight bun, turned to me. Tell me everything about Wednesday. Don't leave anything out. So I did. I told her about Baxter's shaking hands in biology, how his glucose monitor beeped at 48 and then 41, how Mrs. Squelch wouldn't let him leave even when I explained he was diabetic, how she said, no one leaves during lab time even when I told her he could die. The nurse was gone by 2, I said. She always leaves at 2. The vending machines were unplugged. They only work until noon, except Friday. Gary, the maintenance guy, would secretly keep them on for us on Friday. He has a daughter with type 1 diabetes. Gary was in the corner of the cafeteria, still in his gray work uniform. He looked terrified. He must have known what this would mean for his job. The lawyer looked at Gary, then back at me. So you broke the glass? I didn't think about it. I just did it. His monitor said 41. At 40, he could have a seizure. At 30, I stopped. We all knew what happened at 30. The head health inspector walked over to Baxter's mom with his tablet. Ma'am, you need to see this. We all crowded around. The screen showed their inspection result. Failed, failed, failed. Every single line was red. This cafeteria hasn't passed a real inspection in 3 years, he said. They've been filing false reports. He swiped to show picture. Black mold covered the back wall of the kitchen. A box of milk said 2019. Mouse droppings were everywhere on the storage shelf. The grease trap hadn't been cleaned in years. This is why it kept closing, I said, finally understand. Not for emergency inspection. They were trying to hide this. The principal stormed in right then with the superintendent behind him. His face was red and sweaty from running. This is a witch hunt, he yelled at Baxter's mom. You're trying to destroy this school because your son. Baxter's mom pulled out her phone and hit play. The principal's own voice filled the room. These diabetic kids need to stop being so dramatic. They can just deal with it like everyone else. The recording was from last month's parent meeting. I remembered Baxter telling me about it, how his mom had been furious. Now we knew why. The principal's face went from red to white. The superintendent took a step away from him. That's taken out of context. The principal stammered. The context, Baxter's mom said coldly, is that my son almost died. More parents started arriving. One mom had a daughter with severe peanut allergy. Her daughter had been hospitalized twice this year from bad cafeteria food. She carried a thick folder of medical records. Then another dad walked in. The whole room went quiet. Everyone knew about his older daughter. She'd died at another school 2 years ago. Same kind of rule, same kind of neglect. He held up a framed photo of a girl who looked just like his son from our grade. Her name was Destiny. She was 13. The lawyer started writing faster. Gary walked over to me and showed his phone. It was a group text with 12 other maintenance workers from different district schools. There's something really strange about a school that searches kids for food like they're entering a prison. I wonder what happened to make them create such extreme rule. Gary keeping those vending machines on every Friday seems risky for a maintenance worker, especially if they were all outside, ready to come in and tell what they knew about safety violation. We've been talking for months, Gary said quietly. After what happened to Baxter, we decided enough was enough. The superintendent tried to leave, but one of the lawyers stepped in front of him. Sir, this is now a federal disability discrimination case. The ADA requires you to provide reasonable accommodations for students with medical condition. You might want to stay. He sat back down, pulling out his phone to text frantically. A school board member arrived. Mrs. Chen, who I recognized from her campaign post. She pulled the principal aside, but we could all hear pieces of their conversation. Multiple lawsuits, criminal negligence charges. Knew about this for years. year. The principal kept saying he just followed district policy, but Mrs. Chen pulled out her phone and showed him something. His face went even paler. "These are emails," she said louder now, not caring who heard. "You got safety warning. You ignored them. You marked them as resolved without doing anything." Part 9. The assembly at 5:30. They called an emergency assembly. The whole school packed into the auditorium. Parents filled the back row. The superintendent stood at the podium looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Effective immediately," he said. "The principal is taking administrative leave while we investigate these serious allegations." Kids started whispering. A few parents clapped. The assistant principal took the microphone next. She looked scared but determined. "Starting tomorrow, the vending machines will operate all day. Students may bring their own lunches. We'll have food trucks in the parking lot until the cafeteria passes inspection." The room erupted. Kids cheered. Parents nodded. I saw a girl crying with relief, but I kept watching the principal standing in the corner. He stared at me with pure hatred, like this was all my fault, like Baxter almost dying was less important than his career. I stared back. I didn't care what he thought anymore. Part 10. The news Saturday morning. I got to school early to help set up the food truck. News vans were already there. Channel 7, Channel 4, even CNN. Reporters talked to parents while cameras rolled. Baxter's mom stood in front of the main entrance, perfectly composed despite probably not sleeping. "Jefferson High has systematically violated the Americans with Disabilities Act," she told the cameras. "They've endangered children with medical conditions. My son's blood sugar dropped to 41 while his principal played golf. This isn't just negligence, it's criminal." Gary stood behind her in his work uniform. A reporter asked him why he helped students. "My daughter has type 1 diabetes," he said simply. "I know what it's like to worry every day if your kid will come home safe." These children were dying slowly and nobody cared. I did what any parent would do. By noon, the food trucks were serving real food. I watched kids eat like they hadn't seen food in months, which honestly wasn't far from the truth. Baxter checked his blood sugar after eating a proper meal. 95, perfect. A girl brought her own lunch for the first time all year without fear of it being thrown away. She showed me her EpiPen. "I can actually carry this now instead of hoping the nurse has one." Kids kept coming up to thank me, but it felt weird. I didn't want to be a hero. I just wanted my friend to not die. Part 11. The investigation. Monday afternoon, the state announced they were investigating all district food policies. 17 schools had the same dangerous rules. The same company ran all their cafeterias. The same violations appeared everywhere. Baxter's mom's lawyers were now representing families from all 17 schools. The lawsuit grew from a local issue to a state crisis. The principal returned to clean out his office on Friday, escorted by security. I was walking to English when we passed in the hall. He stopped and looked at me. "You ruined my career over some candy bars." I met his eyes. Baxter almost died. "You ruined your own career." Security moved him along, but he kept looking back at me with that same hatred. That afternoon, good news. Finally, Gary was back at work officially this time, but not just as maintenance. His new title was Student Health Advocate. The district created the position just for him with a raise and an office near the nurse. He set up a medical station with glucose tablets, EpiPens, inhalers, and other emergency supplies. Everything a kid might need fast, no questions asked. "It's not perfect," he told me while organizing supplies, "but it's a start." Part 12. The apology. Monday rolled around with another surprise. Mrs. Squelch pulled me aside after biology. "I need to apologize," she said. "I was so focused on following rules that I forgot why I became a teacher. To help kids, not hurt them." She opened her desk drawer. It was full of juice boxes, glucose tablets, and granola bars. "I know the warning signs now," she continued. "I've studied every medical condition my students have. It won't happen again." I wanted to stay angry at her, but she looked genuinely broken by what almost happened. She'd been wrong, yes, but at least she was trying to fix it. "Thank you," I said quietly. "That means a lot." She nodded. "I'll spend the rest of my career making sure no kid goes through what Baxter went through." Part 13. The Safety Committee. Wednesday was our first Safety Committee meeting. I expected maybe 5 kids. 12 showed up. We sat in a circle and started listing every dangerous rule we could think of. No water bottles during tests, even 3-hour standardized ones. No bathroom breaks without a pass, even for kids with medical conditions. Emergency exits locked during school hours. The list went on and on. The interim principal, the former assistant principal, took notes on everything. "We'll address each one," she promised. Friday night was the school board meeting. The room was packed with parents, standing room only. Local news cameras lined the walls. A letter from the district's insurance company got read first. They would drop coverage unless all safety violations were fixed immediately. No negotiation. Fix it or lose insurance, which meant the school would have to close. For once, parents, who usually fought about everything, agreed. "Fix it now!" Then a student stood up during public comment. His dad stood beside him for support. "My sister Destiny was 13, he said, his voice shaking. She was in math class at another school with the same rule. Her blood sugar crashed during state testing. The teacher wouldn't let her eat her glucose tablets because of test security. She had a seizure. She went into a coma. She never woke up. The room was completely silent. A few parents were crying. Every rule that keeps kids from food or medicine is a potential murder, he continued. You all have blood on your hands. He sat down. Nobody applauded. It was too heavy for that. Saturday morning, the board voted unanimously. All food restriction policies ended immediately district-wide. 3 administrators who knew about violations but covered them up were fired. The cafeteria company's contract was terminated. People clapped this time, but Baxter's mom stood up. This is a start, she said. But the lawsuit continues until we see real permanent change. Not promises. Change. Part 14. The criminal investigation. Monday brought news that spread through school like lightning. The principal had tried to get a job in another district, but Baxter's mom's lawyers contacted them with information about the criminal investigation. His job offer vanished the same day. He's radioactive, Baxter told me at lunch. No district will touch him now. Wednesday, things got more serious. The state attorney general's office started a criminal investigation. We all got letters saying we might be called as witnesses. But the real shock came when they revealed why the principal fought so hard to keep the current food company. He was getting kickbacks. Money in his account every month that matched what the company saved by serving garbage food. I knew it, Gary said when he heard. The math never made sense. Good food doesn't cost that much more than what they serve. Friday, I sat in a small room with 2 investigators. They recorded everything. I told them about the vending machines turning off at noon, the nurse leaving at 2, the principal's golf schedule that everyone knew but couldn't mention, kids fainting from hunger, Baxter rationing his glucose supply, another student hiding rice cakes in her saxophone case. They asked about Gary, too. I made sure they understood. He was the only adult who tried to help. He risked his job every Friday to keep kids safe. He's a hero, I said. The principal is the criminal. Part 15. The trial. Monday evening, we watched the news at Baxter's house. Breaking news tonight. 5 district officials arrested in food service fraud scheme. They showed the principal being walked out of his house in handcuffs. Then 4 others we didn't recognize, district administrators who'd been stealing from the food budget for years. That's why our cafeteria was so bad, Baxter's mom said. They took the money meant for food and maintenance. The principal's lawyer appeared on screen claiming his client just followed orders from higher up. But then they showed emails where the principal organized the whole scheme. The trial started the next month. Baxter had to testify first. His hands shook as he sat in the witness chair, describing how his brain started shutting down, how he knew he might die because of a vending machine rule. I remember thinking my mom would find me dead at school, he said. The jury looked sick. My turn came next. The defense lawyer tried to make me look violent. You destroyed school property, he said. To save a life, I answered. The prosecutor showed my clean record and Baxter's glucose reading of 41. Would you do it again? She asked. Every time. Gary took the stand after me. He showed logs of 17 safety complaints he'd filed over 2 years. Every single one had been marked resolved by the principal with no actual changes made. I was ordered to unplug those machines at noon, Gary said. I knew it could kill students. I did it anyway for months because I needed my job. I'll never forgive myself for waiting so long to act. The principal's lawyer objected to everything, but the evidence stayed. Friday, the jury came to our school. They saw the broken vending machine, still not fixed, the glass still missing. Evidence now. They saw the nurse's office that used to close at 2. They saw the condemned cafeteria. They saw the principal's old office with his golf trophy still on the shelf. One juror shook her head when she saw the cafeteria. Even fixed up, you could see where the black mold had been. Monday, more parents testified. The mom of the girl with allergies could barely speak, describing finding her daughter unconscious after eating contaminated cafeteria food because outside food was banned. The dad who lost his daughter was worse. He held up pictures of her funeral and just cried. Several jury members wiped their eyes. Wednesday, the defense tried to save the principal. They said he just followed district policy, dealt with budget cuts, tried to maintain order. Then the prosecutor showed his bank record. Deposits every month that matched what the food company saved by serving garbage. Money straight to his personal account. The principal's lawyer asked for a break. When they came back, he looked defeated. Friday afternoon, closing arguments. The prosecutor reminded everyone that Baxter was 9 points from death while the principal played golf. 9 points. The defense argued this was scapegoating one man for system-wide failure. The jury left to decide. We waited. Part 16. The verdict Monday at 4 p.m. After 6 hours of waiting, they called us back. Baxter's mom held Baxter's hand so tight her knuckles were white. Gary paced by the door. My stomach hurt. Guilty on all counts. The principal's face went completely white. Criminal negligence, theft, falsifying safety reports. He faced real prison time, Baxter's mom cried. Gary nodded slowly. I felt relief, but no happiness. This wasn't something to celebrate. A week later, the civil lawsuit settled. The families would split $3.2 million. But more important were the required changes, new policies, safety safety audits every month, emergency training for all teachers. Real change, finally written into legal documents. Wednesday at lunch, school felt almost normal. Kids ate when they needed to. Baxter kept glucose tablets right on his desk. The girl with allergies brought her allergy-free lunch without hiding it. But we all remembered. We all knew how close we'd come. Part 17. Baxter's Law. 2 weeks later, the governor signed Baxter's Law requiring all schools to accommodate medical dietary needs and keep nurses until dismissal. At the signing ceremony, Baxter had to speak. His voice was steady this time. No kid should have to choose between going to school and staying alive. This law shouldn't even be special. It should just be common sense. The governor shook his hand. Cameras flashed. Baxter looked tired, not triumphant. Monday afternoon, we tried to return to normal teenage life. Baxter joined the debate team. Turned out nearly dying made him less afraid of public speaking. I focused on my grades and started working on college applications. The girl with allergies started a cooking club for kids with dietary restrictions, teaching safe recipes. We were trying to just be kids again, but we couldn't forget. Part 18. The anniversary Friday marked almost a year since that terrible Wednesday. Baxter's blood sugar stayed stable. The vending machines hummed all day. The nurse worked until 5. Kids brought whatever food they needed. What had once seemed revolutionary was now just normal, the way it always should have been. The anniversary itself came on a gray Friday morning. Dr. Williams, our new principal, had declared it a day of remembrance, not celebration. There was nothing to celebrate about kids dying from preventable neglect. We gathered by the flagpole at 10 a.m. The whole school was there, even teachers who usually stayed in their rooms during assemblies. Destiny's brother stood in front with a framed photo of his sister. 3 other families held pictures too, kids from other schools who died from the same dangerous policy. Dr. Williams stepped forward with a paper in her hand. Today we remember Destiny Washington, age 13, Marcus Chen, age 14, Aaliyah Brooks, age 12, Samuel Martinez, age 15. Each name hung in the air. Real kids who should have been alive. Gary walked forward with a shovel and a small tree. "This oak will grow strong," he said, "like these kids should have." He dug the hole himself, refusing help. When he planted the tree, his hands shook. I knew he was thinking about his own daughter, how close she'd come to being one of those names. Baxter spoke last. His voice was steady, but his eyes were wet. "I survived because someone broke a rule to save me," he said, looking at me. "These kids died because nobody broke rules for them. We live with that. We carry them with us. Every glucose tablet I take, every safe meal we eat, it's because they couldn't." After the ceremony, kids went back to class quietly, but something had shifted. We all understood the weight of what we'd changed. Part 19. The future, Monday afternoon, I got an email that made my hands shake. College acceptance. Early admission to State University. The essay that got me in was titled, "The Day I Chose Breaking Glass Over Following Rules." Baxter got his acceptance the same day. Pre-med track at the same school. "We're going to be roommates," he said, but his smile was tired. We both knew why we'd chosen these paths. Him to become a doctor who'd actually listen. Me to become a lawyer who'd fight these battles. Legally next time, the girl with allergies got into the nutrition program at Central State. "I'm going to make sure school food never hurts kids again," she told us at lunch. Wednesday. During our last safety committee meeting, I looked around the room at the younger students. They had new battles, fighting for mental health counselors who actually help, wheelchair ramps that work, bathrooms for trans kids. The same fight, different faces. A freshman named Maria raised her hand. "What if they don't listen to us either?" I thought about it. You document everything. You find adults who care. They exist. Even if they're hiding, you protect each other. And if someone's in danger, you do whatever it takes to keep them safe. Even if it means getting in trouble, Baxter added. The trouble you get in for saving someone is temporary. Death is forever. The younger kids took notes like we were teaching them sacred knowledge. Maybe we were. Part 20. Graduation. Graduation came on a bright Saturday morning. The ceremony was outside on the football field. Parents filled the bleachers. I saw Baxter's mom in the 3rd row with a camera. My parents sat in front, proud and still a little confused about how their rule-following kid became a revolutionary. The ceremony started with the national anthem. Then speeches from valedictorian and salutatorian about bright futures and endless possibilities. Normal graduation stuff that felt weird after our year. Then Dr. Williams took the podium. "This class is different," she said. "This class changed everything. They fought for their lives and won. They taught us that sometimes breaking rules is the most moral thing you can do. They showed us that student voices matter more than adult comfort." She looked directly at our section. "You leave here warriors. Don't ever forget that." When they called my name, I walked across the stage in a daze. Mrs. Squelch handed me my my diploma. I was crying. Thank you, she whispered, for teaching me what courage looks like. Gary stood at the end of the stage in his maintenance uniform, giving every graduate a thumbs up. When I passed, he saluted. An actual salute. After the ceremony, families took pictures and cried and laughed. The old principal's name never came up. It was like he'd been erased from the school's history. His photo had been removed from the principal's wall. His policies were gone. His legacy was nothing but a cautionary tale. But the photo of Destiny now hung in the main hallway with a plaque in memory of all students who deserved better. We promised to do better. We stood there, graduates now, looking at our school one last time. We'd survive. We'd change things, but we were different now, marked by knowing how easily schools can kill through not caring, and how hard you must fight for basic human dignity. Baxter found me by the bleachers after the ceremony. You saved my life, he said simply. You would have done the same for me. Yeah, he said, but you actually did it. We stood there for a long moment, watching the younger kids stream out of the building, carrying their own lunches, checking their glucose monitors openly, laughing. We'd done that. We'd broken the glass, and we'd broken the system, and somewhere in between we'd grown up. College? I said. College, he agreed. Pre-med. Pre-med. You? Pre-law. Someone's got to keep fighting, he smiled. It was tired but real. We're going to be roommates, aren't we? Like we ever had a choice. We walked away from the school together, past the new food trucks and the working vending machines and the kids who would never know how close we'd come to losing everything. But we knew. And we'd never forget, because sometimes the most important thing you can do is break the rules. And sometimes the people who try to stop you are the ones who should have been protecting you all along. Look back one last time at the school that had almost killed my best friend. Then I turned around and walked toward the future we'd fought for. The glass was broken. The rules were changed. And somewhere, Destiny was smiling. The end.